I have the happy task, and believe me, I am just thrilled, of presenting the Lucretia Mott Award tonight. The Lucretia Mott Award was established in 1978 to honor the memory of the great 19th century pioneer of women's rights. Each year, the award is bestowed upon an outstanding woman whose achievements continued Mott's legacy of opening doors for women and girls, and whose life speaks of commitment to gender equality. Past recipients include Coretta Scott King, Gloria Steinem, Nina Totenberg, and Marian Anderson. It is my great honor and deep pleasure to present the 2023 Lucretia Mott Award to my dear friend and colleague, Catherine Colbert. For 45 years, Kitty has dedicated her work to advancing gender equality through fierce and bold advocacy, brilliant legal strategies, and boundless passion. Her career has included extraordinary legal work at both Community Legal Services and the Women's Law Project here in Philadelphia, as well as the ACLU Reproductive Freedom Project and the Center for Reproductive Rights, which she co-founded in 1992. She has also been an exemplary leader, serving as president and CEO of People for the American Way and its foundation. Her remarkable creative and entrepreneurial vision is exemplified in both her work at the University of Pennsylvania's Annenberg Public Policy Center, where she was the creator and executive producer of NPR's Justice Talking, and at Barnard College, where she led the Athena Center for Leadership and co-founded the very popular and successful Athena Film Festival. As a professor at Barnard and Penn, she has taught and mentored scores of students, guiding many on their paths to law school. She has published articles on gender equality in prestigious law journals, and most recently co-authored an influential book with Julie Kay, who's here tonight, Controlling Women, What We Must Do Now to Save Reproductive Freedom. Her TED Talk, The End of Roe, What Comes Next for Reproductive Freedom, has received over 2 million views. All of that is truly extraordinary. I can think of few others whose long and distinguished career has been so multifaceted, influential, and impactful. In particular, Kitty's powerful work in protecting access to reproductive autonomy here in Pennsylvania and across the nation is unparalleled. In 2 appearances before the United States Supreme Court, in Thornburg versus American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, she successfully challenged draconian limitations on abortion enacted here in Pennsylvania. Most significantly, in 1992 in Casey, she preserved the landmark ruling in Roe versus Wade, protecting access to abortion for pregnant individuals throughout the nation for 30 years, until the court's overruling of both Roe and Casey last summer in the deeply disturbing and devastating Dobbs decision. I had the privilege of working side by side with Kitty throughout the Casey litigation. As we crafted the briefs and honed the oral argument over countless hours, I personally witnessed her fierce determination, fearlessness, deep dedication to the cause, and expansive vision. Her oral argument to the court was brilliant. The arguments advanced reflected an expansive vision that grounded women's reproductive autonomy in equality as well as privacy principles. That broad vision is explicitly reflected in the Casey plurality opinion, which emphasized, and it's hard to read this without tearing up, the ability of women to participate equally in the economic and social life of the nation has been facilitated by their ability to control their reproductive lives. Kitty's broad vision is also reflected in her visionary use of state constitutional principles to challenge the cutoff of Medicaid funding for abortion in Pennsylvania and other states. In her own words, as she recently reflected in a Vanity Fair profile, "I always cared deeply about reproductive freedom and the ability of all people to freely decide whether, when, how, and with whom to have children." Yes, you have, Kitty. We are also grateful for all that you have done. Please join me in welcoming Catherine Colbert to the stage and congratulating her for this well-deserved recognition. It is my deep honor to present the 2023 Lucretia Mott Award to Catherine Colbert.
Well, thank you so much, Linda. That was a just incredibly kind introduction, and I have to say I'm honored as well to have worked with such an extraordinary lawyer and passionate advocate. And I want to thank Women's Way as well for this marvelous honor and for all your decades of significant work that has improved the lives of women and girls here in Philadelphia and across the state. A special thank you as well to my wife, Joanne, whose love has made my life richer. And to my daughter, Kate, who's made it in from California, who inspires me each and every day. And to all of my friends who are here, thank you so much for celebrating this with us. And just know that your friendship is the rocket fuel that keeps me soaring. You know, in 1974, I moved to Philadelphia to go to law school. It was just 1 year after the Supreme Court had decided Roe versus Wade. And we've made a lot of progress in the last 50 years. We've created rape crisis centers and shelters for battered women. We've made sexual harassment illegal. We've welcomed women into college sports and into the workplace in greater numbers and into political office. And we've watched in awe as marriage equality and same-sex parenting has become commonplace. Yet it is difficult to celebrate all of these remarkable advances when this year an ultra-conservative Supreme Court has eviscerated federal constitutional protection for abortion, a right that has been relied upon by millions of women and families. The overruling of Roe and Casey in Dobbs is devastating for the rule of law, for other freedoms that will soon be on the chopping block, and for women's lives and health. I want to explain. First, rather than finding that there'd been a change in the facts or the legal reasoning undergirding Roe, the Dobbs court brazenly declared that Roe was just wrong from the start. When they did that, they forsake the legal principle of stare decisis, which has been part of our tradition since the founding of this nation. And basically, the justices said that whenever a majority of the court, for whatever reason, disagrees with a prior ruling, they're free. They can overrule it. Their wanton disregard for over a half a century of precedent undermines the stability of law, and, most importantly, the institutional integrity of the court. It's not surprising that the Supreme Court has seen its job approval dip to the lowest point in more than 3 decades of polling. Second, the court in Dobbs sent a strong message that more than the right to abortion is at stake. They said the right to use contraception, the right to same-sex intimacy in marriage, and other rights that are not specifically mentioned in the Constitution, or which have faced a long history of legal discrimination, they're all at risk. More incursions are not only possible, but likely. Third, and I have to say equally sinister, Justice Alito's decision ignores the impact of his ruling on the lives and the health of women and non-binary and trans people who also face unintended pregnancy. The court placed no limits on the government's power to restrict or completely ban abortion. Across a vast array of circumstances, Justice Kagan noted in her dissent, the state will be able to impose its moral choice on women and coerce her to give birth to a child. As of the days before Dobbs, not all women are affected equally. Too often, low-income women, teens, women in rural areas, those with physical or mental disabilities are unable to obtain health care and abortion services. Structural racism that impacts particularly the ability of women of color to obtain quality health care can prove deadly, as states with alarmingly high rates of maternal mortality and infant deaths are forcing more women to have children. Today, a ribbon of 14 abortion bans now run across America, leaving millions of people across the South and through many of the mountain states almost entirely without abortion access. And that doesn't even include Florida and North Carolina, whose bans have been passed but not yet taken effect. It's extremely confusing for health providers to track the status of the law and protect themselves from liability. But think about a pregnant teenager, or a woman living with an abusive spouse, or an illegal immigrant who doesn't speak English, trying to navigate these multiple and ever-changing rules. And not just women who want to end unintended pregnancies are affected. In states where abortion is banned, a woman who intends to give birth, but who might find herself with an ectopic pregnancy or a molar pregnancy, discovers that her fetus has anomalies that are fatal, or suffers a miscarriage, may be unable to obtain the medical care that is necessary to save her life, her health, or her fertility. Even women in abortion-friendly states could be affected. Earlier just this week, on Tuesday, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals heard arguments in a frightening lawsuit that seeks to strip FDA approval for medication abortion 20 years after its approval. A loss in the Supreme Court would impact the availability of abortion, not just in states where it's banned, but here in Pennsylvania and all across the nation. You know, what surprises me more than the cruelty and the misogyny of our opponents that all of this has demonstrated is the reaction of the 75% of Americans who support abortion rights. In response to the court, we saw deep personal grief, then mass outrage, then action. Activists marched before the Supreme Court in cities across the nation. In Kansas, Democrats and independents and moderate Republicans overwhelmingly voted down a measure eliminating abortion from their state constitution. By last November, we saw wins in all 5 ballot measures where abortion was the issue in both red and blue states. And you know, concern over the loss of Roe was a difference maker in a wide range of races, from the US Congress to gubernatorial seats to legislative seats, even state Supreme Court seats. Where abortion was an issue, we won by large majorities. And thanks to many of you in this room, Pennsylvania elected a pro-choice governor, flipped a US Senate seat, and the Pennsylvania House is now led by pro-choice members. For the first time in our history, an African-American woman, Joanna McClinton, is Speaker of the House. You know, pockets of hope and resistance also are sprouting up in unexpected places. Women in abortion deserts are finding ways to get abortion pills via telemedicine, from doctors in Europe and pharmacies in India, or through clandestine smugglers, including elderly women who are buying drugs in Mexico and delivering them to women in need. In April, 5 women state senators in South Carolina, 3 white Republicans and 2 black Democrats, this is South Carolina, united to defeat the state's ban on abortion. When opponents called a special legislative session to reconsider the ban, activists flooded the Capitol, and the sister senators are still saying they will filibuster the bill when it returns to the Senate this week or next. In Nebraska, to defeat a ban on gender-affirming care, State Senator Michaela Cavanaugh filibustered every single bill that came before the legislature since February, talking nonstop for up to 12 hours at a time. Unbelievable. After leaders merged an anti-trans bill with a ban on abortion, conservatives were able to vote against the filibuster and stop her from talking. But Kavanaugh, along with other women members and activists, are still voicing their opposition. These developments should give us hope, because the best way to save reproductive freedom is to make noise, and most importantly, to build political power. By electing champions for choice in every state and in Congress, we can implement an agenda that protects a wide range of reproductive freedoms. Just think about this: paid family leave, affordable child care, pre-K education in every school, programs to reduce maternal and infant deaths, the birth control pill available over the counter, as easy to get as a bottle of Tylenol, and of course, access to safe, legal, and affordable abortion. No more bans, no more hurdles to jump, no funding restrictions. Medication abortion would be widely available without a prescription at pharmacies, walk-in medical clinics, and health centers on every college campus. And while it seems unimaginable today, with political power in the hands of champions of choice, we could add a new gender equity amendment to the United States Constitution to ensure that protections for these fundamental human rights would be a permanent part of U.S. law. Personal and private decisions about contraception, pregnancy, sex and sexuality, marriage, and parenting would be ours to make, not controlled by politicians, not dependent on the color of your skin, nor where you live, or how much money you make, or who you love, or the pronouns that you use. As feminist author Rebecca Solnit reminds us, the future is bigger than our imaginations. It's unimaginable, and then it comes anyway. To meet it, we need to keep going. To walk past what we can imagine, we need to be unstoppable. And here's what it takes. You don't stop walking to congratulate yourself. You don't stop walking to wallow in despair. You don't stop because your own life got too comfortable or too rough. You don't stop because you won. You don't stop because you lost. There's more to win, there's more to lose, and others who need you. Solnit continues, you walk the path into being, you make the way, and if you do it well, others can follow the route. But mostly, you just walk. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. That's what makes you unstoppable. So tonight, let's begin to walk together. I thank you for this wonderful award. Good night.